Clarence Hill, Dallas Cowboys with the great Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, NBC. What do we call it?
It's ProFootballTalk.com.
Okay, ProFootballTalk.com.
We're PFT Live on NBC.
But
I still own 100% of the equity of Pro Football Talk. We got a license with NBC we've had for 16 years, but it's still my baby, going 23 years. I said today I'm going to ride that horse until it dies under me or I die on top of it.
It's your baby. It's your brand. It's like the Cowboys. You're the face of Pro Football Talk. Jerry Jones, face of the Cowboys. Should the owner be the face of the franchise?
Well, probably not, but when you're the owner, you get to do whatever you want, and nobody can tell you otherwise. I was telling somebody this earlier today. There's no accountability for ownership, and I think that can lead to a situation where bad decisions get made. Because what's anyone going to do about it? You can't get fired.
Right.
And the only way that it's ever going to hurt the owners is if fans choose to deprive themselves of what they love. How can you do that? How would enough Cowboys fans say, we're going to boycott games?
Right.
We're not going to watch games on TV. How would they? Thank you. How would you ever bring yourself to do that? You love football. You don't want to not watch football for a year or two or however long it would take to get Jerry to sell the team. So that's a problem. And that's why they hate the NFLPA report card.
Right.
I was talking to somebody about that last night. The owners hate that because it's one way to hold them accountable. They don't want to be held accountable. And when you remove accountability from someone's life, you set the stage for making all sorts of bad decisions.
Right. The Eagles in the Super Bowl 3 times last 8 years. Obviously, like Jeffrey Lurie and Harry Roseman run their team different than the Cowboys. Are they the anti-Cowboys in a sense? Is this like a referendum on how the Cowboys do business compared to how the Eagles do business? They have great drafts, but they also supplement their things with ratings. They have a delineation between ownership and GM.
Well, Clarence, I think the real question is, how do the Cowboys define success? Devin McCourty and I had some fun with it last week after Steven tried to downplay the drought. He called it a drought that people say we're in. You know why we say they're in a drought? Because they are in a drought.
Right.
It's been 30 years since an NFC championship, but is it a drought when they're making it rain dollar bills?
Right.
And they're profitable and they're the most popular brand, and anytime one of their games is on national TV, 25 million people tune in, that sun might be setting. That's the concern, and I think they're sensitive to it. I think that's why, Clarence, that they snuck the Brian Schottenheimer head coaching hiring news into 9:45 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night. They knew what the reaction was going to be, so they're starting to, I think, become a little concerned about what might happen to their brand. But I think Jerry, and I read his testimony from the Sunday Ticket antitrust case last summer. It is obvious. All he cares about is being interesting.
Right.
You want to be interesting. Winning is secondary. If you define success based on whether or not you win the Super Bowl, you're going to be pissed off a lot. If you define success based on are you interesting, are you drawing a bigger crowd, I think more impressive than winning any Super Bowl over the last 30 years is him keeping that team where they are in the overall profile by having the longest drought in the NFC of 30 years now, by 15 years over the Bears. Think about that. 30 years, not in the Final Four, and they're still America's team. Now, that might be slipping. The Chiefs might have something to say about it, but still, to be as popular as they've been for as long as they've been and not be at the highest levels of the sport, that's more impressive than winning a Super Bowl.
Well, the fact that they are the richest franchise in sports and haven't won in 30 years, how much money would they make if they actually won something?
Well, that's the question. How much more would you make? You know, would you make a lot more?
Right.
When Jerry says you'd be surprised by the size of the check that I'd write in order to guarantee a Super Bowl, I think we'd be surprised because it'd be so small. I really don't think at the end of the day that's the priority. The priority is profile and profit from that, and always be what people are talking about. I was talking to somebody about the bad calls, the proliferation of the bad calls in the NFL. I think owners like Jerry like it because it gives us something to talk about.
Right.
And so we're talking about the NFL. And he is the prime example of the person who believes there's no such thing as bad publicity as long as they get your name right. So he doesn't care. And he mentioned in that testimony in the Sunday Ticket trial, he doesn't mind that there are people who hate him. That's what makes you interesting.
Right.
You want to be polarizing. You want to be somebody that people talk about. And I wonder, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, when he realizes how the Luka Doncic trade ended up taking over the conversation on other sports shows, I don't know. Is he going to start thinking about who do I trade to try to do the same thing?
Oh, he's not trading the stars. He never trades. He overpays the stars.
Well, he waits too long to overpay his stars. That's the problem. You know, for as good as they are at drafting and developing, they do a horrible job of knowing when to say uncle.
Right.
And they waited too long with CeeDee Lamb, obviously. They waited too long with Dak the first time.
Yes.
They waited too long with Dak the second time, and it puts him in a bad spot. And when you listen to the word salad at the press conference, they act like they don't understand or that it doesn't matter. It does matter. The sooner you pay a guy, it's always going to cost more later. So if you're going to pay him anyway, the sooner you get it done, the cheaper it's going to be.
Right, and you have more flexibility to do other things to add to your team of free agency.
Unlike last year where they did nothing.
Right.
Because they were handcuffed by the CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott situations. If they would have done it after he told you he's all in,
right.
If they would have gotten him taken care of then they could have been all in with other players.
Well, he always gives us something to talk about.
He always gives us something to talk about. I love Jerry.
I'm
Jerry,
on team media.
Jerry is great for the game. Might not be great for the Cowboys, but he's great for the game, he's great for the league, and he's great for our business.
And you know who's great for the game? Pro Football Talk.
All right, buddy. That's it. That's
Thank
perfect.
You,
That's perfect. You're
Appreciate
good
it,
at
man.
this.
Thank you, man.
All right, buddy. Good seeing you.